Chapter 3 Path of Karma Yoga. Arjuna said, "If you consider that acquiring transcendental knowledge is better than working, then why do you want me to engage in this horrible war, O Krishna? You seem to confuse my mind by apparently conflicting words. Tell me decisively one thing by which I can attain the supreme abode." The Supreme Lord said, "In this world, O Arjuna, a twofold path of spiritual discipline has been stated by me in the past. The path of self-knowledge or Jnana Yoga for the contemplative, and the path of unselfish work or Seva or Karma Yoga for the active. One does not attain freedom from the bondage of karma by merely abstaining from work. No one attains perfection by merely giving up work. Because no one can remain actionless even for a moment. Everyone is driven by action, helplessly indeed, by the forces of nature. The deluded ones who restrain their organs of action but mentally dwell upon the sense enjoyment are called the hypocrites. One who controls the senses by a trained and purified mind and intellect and engages the organs of action to selfless service is superior, O Arjuna. Perform your obligatory duty, because working is indeed better than sitting idle. Even the maintenance of your body would be impossible without work. Human beings are bound by work or karma that is not performed as a selfless service, namely seva or yajna. Therefore, O Arjuna, becoming free from selfish attachment to the fruits of work, do your duty efficiently as a service to me. Brahma, the Creator, in the beginning created human beings together with selfless service, seva or yajna, sacrifice, and said, "By yajna you shall prosper, and yajna shall fulfill your desires." Nourish the celestial controllers, namely Devas, with selfless service, seva, and the Devas will nourish you. Thus, nourishing one another, you shall attain the supreme goal. The celestial controllers, namely Devas, nourished by selfless service, namely seva, will give you the desired objects. One who enjoys the gift of Devas without offering them anything in return is indeed a thief. The righteous who eat the remnants of a selfless service, namely seva or yajna, are freed from all sins, but the impious who cook food only for themselves without first offering to me or sharing with others, in truth eat sin. The living beings are born from food grains. Grains are produced by rain. Rain comes from, as a favor from the Devas, if duty is performed as a selfless service, namely seva or yajna. Duty is prescribed in the Vedas. The Vedas come from Brahma, the eternal being. Thus, all-pervading Brahma is ever present in seva. One who does not help to keep the wheel of creation in motion by sacrificial duty, namely seva, and who rejoices in sense pleasures, that sinful person lives in vain, O Arjuna. For one who rejoices only with the eternal being Brahma, who is delighted with the eternal being, and who is content with the eternal being alone, for such a self-realized person there is no duty. Such a person has no interest whatsoever in what is done or what is not done. A self-realized person does not depend on anybody except God for anything. Therefore, always perform your duty efficiently and without any selfish attachment to the results, because by doing work without attachment, one attains the Supreme Being. King Janaka and others attained perfection or self-realization by selfless service, karma yoga alone. You also should perform your duty with a view to guide people and for the universal welfare of the society. Whatever noble persons do, others follow. Whatever standard they set, the world follows. O Arjuna, there is nothing in the three worlds, heaven, earth, and the lower regions, that should be done by me. Nor there is anything unobtained that I should obtain, yet I engage in action. If I do not engage in action relentlessly, O Arjuna, people would follow the same path. These worlds would perish if I do not work, and I would be the cause of the confusion and the destruction of all these people. As the ignorant work, O Arjuna, with the attachment to the fruits of work, so the wise should work without attachment for the welfare of the society. The wise should not unsettle the minds of the ignorant who are attached to the fruits of work, but should inspire others by performing all works efficiently without selfish attachment. All work is done by the energy and power of nature, but due to the delusion of ignorance, people assume themselves to be the doers. One who knows the truth, O Arjuna, about the role of the forces of nature and work does not become attached to the work, knowing very well that it is the forces of nature that work with their instruments, namely our organs. Those who are deluded by the illusion power, namely Maya, of the nature, become attached to the work done by the forces of nature. The wise should not disturb the mind of the ignorant whose knowledge is imperfect. Do your duty, dedicating all work to me in a spiritual frame of mind, free from desire, attachment, and mental grief. Those who always practice this teaching of mine with faith, of full attention and sincerity, and free from cavil, are freed from the bondage of karma. But those who carp at my teaching and do not practice it should be considered ignorant of the knowledge, senseless and lost. All beings follow their nature. Even the wise act according to their own nature. What then is the value of sense restraint? Likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha, for sense objects remain in the senses. One should not come under the control of these two, because they are indeed two major stumbling blocks on one's path to self-realization. One's inferior natural work is better than superior unnatural work. Death in carrying out one's natural work is useful. Unnatural work produces too much stress. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what impels one to commit sin as if unwillingly and forced against one's will? The Supreme Lord said, it is lust or kama, born out of passion or rajoguna, that becomes anger when unfulfilled. Lust is unsustainable and is a great devil. Know this as an enemy. As the fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, and an embryo by the amnion, similarly self-knowledge, Brahma Jnana becomes obscured by lust. O Arjuna, self-knowledge or Brahma Jnana becomes covered by this insatiable fire of lust, the eternal enemy of the wise. The senses, the mind and the intellect are said to be the seat of lust or karma. Karma, controlling the senses, the mind and the intellect, deludes a person by veiling self-knowledge or jnana. Therefore, O Arjuna, by controlling the senses first, kill this devil of material desire that destroys self-knowledge and self-realization. The senses are said to be superior to the body, the mind is superior to the senses, the intellect is superior to the mind, and Atma or the spirit is superior to the intellect. Thus, knowing the self or Atma to be superior to the intellect and controlling the mind by the intellect that is purified by the spiritual practices, one must kill this mighty enemy, namely lust or karma, O Arjuna. This ends the third chapter named Path of Karma Yoga of the Upanishad of the Bhagavad Gita, the scripture of yoga, dealing with the science of the Absolute in the form of the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna.